Okay, it's 10:05. I think it's probably time to start. Let's call this, oh, one more person.
Maybe they're all late.
They could be all late. Dennis, thank you for putting things in the chat. Dennis just put the link to the agenda in the chat if people don't have it on their phones or computers yet. All right. Let's start the meeting now. So calling this meeting to order. And I want to say we're going to try and keep this meeting to an hour. I'd like to keep questions to the end of the meeting if possible. And we'll probably have another meeting soon to answer other questions. Jim Terrell is not here, the new chair of the building committee, which is now being called the renovation committee. So we'll probably just have another meeting with him after new committee has gotten a few meetings under their belts. Okay, so let's start with the approval of minutes of the 2020 annual meeting and the minutes of the September 3rd, 2020 special meeting. Did anybody get a chance to read them? Somebody want to make a
To
motion?
approve the minutes.
Sorry?
I move to approve the minutes of those meetings.
Can I get somebody who's not emeritus to move to approve the minutes to the meeting?
So moved.
Karen and Spencer Compton move to approve the minutes of those two meetings. Is there a second?
Second.
Bill McLean is seconding. And then is there any discussion about the minutes? Everyone's good?
I had one thing. I think there was a note that it was unanimous in favor of the $500 assessment. And I remember that there was one person who voted no. So just a small correction.
Okay. Annie's got it, it looks like. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other discussion? Okay, with that one correction, it is so moved that those minutes are approved. Okay, next thing is the treasurer's report, the 2021 budget. Annie? You're muted. Still muted.
So I have lots of things pulled up here, so I just have to find my report. Who's got a cat?
I do. I could try to shut her up, but it's hard.
Okay, so at the beginning of this year in the operating account, we had $3,118. Income through yesterday was $109,157 for a total of $112,275. So far this year, we have spent $59,728 for a balance of $52,547. Projected expenses for the remainder of the year is $64,000, and there is currently $24,627 outstanding for accounts receivable. Today is the day that members need to be paid up or have contacted me that they need to do a payment plan. So this week, the executive committee will be looking at people who have not paid, reaching out to them and seeing what they would like their status of their membership to be. In our capital account, we started the year with $15,293. Income through yesterday was $15,697 for a total of $30,990. We have spent $17,015 so far this year for a balance of $13,975. Currently, all of our new incoming members and people paying their initiation fees are all up to date. We do have 2 families on the waiting list, and after we ascertain who is going to remain members next week, maybe we'll be able to invite them in. And that's it. I believe in the budget that I sent out to everybody yesterday, you saw the status of the building project funds. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Annie, but it's not about the building. I just don't understand. Maybe I can't read it properly, but the guest fees, it says that the actual guest fees for 2020 were 1618. The budget was 3,000 and the budget for 2021 is 5,000. So I wonder, since last year, for the first time ever, we had people at the gate checking everybody who came in. So it's the only time we would ever actually know how many guests we had. Could you just explain those numbers and tell us where we
Sure.
stand?
Sure. I think last year we had a lot fewer guests because of COVID. We had a lot fewer people attended. And even though we captured so many people, also Roxana, remember our fiscal year ends December 31st. So this year whatever guest fees, if people paid them after January 1st, they'll go on this year's financial statement. So there's a lot of things at play there. I'm hoping that we'll have more guests this year and more guest fees coming in, but we did expect a less than guest fees, but we got a lot less guest fees last year. But I just think it was a weird COVID year.
So we're expecting lots more guests this year than
I really hope so. I think there've been a lot there already. And as a matter of fact, the executive committee was discussing this morning how to better capture guests that are the guest fees for people that are there. And how we can go about doing that without being super intrusive yet get
Annie,
people to sign in their guests.
Annie, it's Carlene. I thought the system worked really well last year. It seemed effortless to check people in.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't it be possible to have one person out at the entrance checking people in like you did last year?
That's exactly what we were discussing this morning. And I think
good.
we're going to, yes, and I think we're going to reinstitute that. And also I would like to do the electronic check-in also, so that there's a QR code at especially the tennis courts that are out there, and people can just go up and they can sign their own guests in, and we'll have an electronic record of it.
Sounds good.
We rely a lot on people being on, the honor system and people checking in their guests before and after the lifeguards are there too, because they shouldn't just be checked in only when lifeguards are on duty. Sometimes the lifeguards can't be on duty or they're not there to check you in. So to continue to check in your guests with the QR code, I think we're going to set up little frames with the QR code that can be scanned with your phone in many different places. And then I think we should leave the check-in clipboard up on the wall, Annie, so people can sign it in even when the lifeguards aren't there.
I personally like the electronic sign-in because it made it super easy to bill everybody at the end of the year. All I had to do was alphabetize all the sign-ins and it was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's very good. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, so can someone move to approve the treasurer's report for the 2021 budget?
I move to approve it.
Who is that? Oh, Bill.
Bill.
And somebody to second that?
I'll
motion?
second. Emily.
Thank you, Emily. Any discussion? I think we already had discussion, and here's another chance for discussion. No more discussion. All right, so moved.
We need to vote.
We need to vote. 1 minute.
No, on the treasurer's report motion.
We're voting to approve it?
Yes, you have it moved and you have it seconded. And it's been discussed. So now you need to ask for approval.
Okay, can we vote on approval of the minutes of the treasurer's report for 2021 budget?
Aye.
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 How about if there are any nays, do you want to put them in the chat?
Laurie, do we have a quorum? Do we need a quorum for this?
We have a quorum.
I think we have a quorum, but it's hard to count on Zoom. So,
Oh, yes, we definitely have a quorum. A quorum is 40.
all right. Did we have enough people voting? Do we need people to put their names? Do we need to do a poll, Annie? Is there a different way to do
I
it?
was looking for a way to do a poll. I don't think we do, but in this case, it sounds like there were a lot of in favors and no people voting it down unless I'm wrong. I think we're
Everybody said yes.
good
I
to go.
don't see any no's in the chat, so I think that's a yes, and it is.
Meanwhile, I'll try to figure out polling in case we have another vote.
Okay. So the vote is to approve the treasurer's report of 2021. Vote yes. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Susie, did you have a question? No? Okay. We're going to move on to committee reports. We're going to start with the waterfront report, which Annie will do. We're working on a waterfront committee, but it's hard to find people. If people here are interested in being on the waterfront committee, we can talk to you about what that entails. It would be great. We need people to kind of help these young lifeguards and be point person. But Annie's going to give the waterfront committee report now for today.
Oh no, she has to unmute.
I'm sorry, I was not expecting to do this morning, but I can do it. I have done this before. Let's see, let me announce who the lifeguards are. Let me pull up my crew schedule so I can let you know who they are. Okay, we have, come on, sorry, I'm pulling it up. I have to wait for my computer to wake up. Okay, let's see, our lifeguards this year are, senior lifeguards are Eliza Blodgett, Calpurnia Carter, Simon Horan, Mitch Kosciuszko, and Sophie and Plum Luard. Our brand new lifeguards are Thea West, although she did work last year in Warren, so she is a seasoned lifeguard. It's just her first year at CHLA. Sammy Gladstone Campana Gladstone, Iris Hubbard, and I already said Plum. So those are our lifeguards this year. A lot of them are brand new and this is their first job. So please take that into account when you're speaking with them. And let's see, yes, we are trying to form a waterfront committee. We do have several people that are interested. And we have a lot of new families and a lot of children that are playing at the lake every day. And it's awesome to see. We have new toys and we have new life jackets. And please remember to wear a life jacket when you go out in the boat. All children must wear them and adults can have it in the boat. Remember when you're done using your boat to bring it all the way in and flip it over and dump out the water and to hang up your life jackets. Also, if you're swimming across the lake, remember to take a tube with you. We have tons of tubes there. And please do not take your children out to the middle of the lake with you. The lifeguards had to go out and pull in a family a few days ago that went out and it was a really unsafe situation. The lifeguards will be, their job is to prevent any disasters from happening. So please, if they tell you to do something, please listen to them because they usually have a good reason for it. And that's my report that I didn't know I was giving.
Thank you, Annie, for giving that impromptu report. Really, if anybody wants to be on the waterfront committee, talk to me and Annie and we will set it up. We need one and we need volunteers to help with that endeavor. The next committee report is tennis. Matt, are you ready?
Yes. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Jacobus on the tennis committee. So last year, I think it was a difficult year in many ways, as everyone knows, but one bright spot was CHLA tennis. We had record turnout for the round robins, Todd's clinics, curated doubles. Well, maybe record in my memory, maybe not compared to your childhood, but record nonetheless. We're trying to keep the momentum going and keep everyone active again this year. So what do we have going on? We're back to pre-pandemic norms with the traditional season kickoff Australian doubles on July 4th, where you switch partners every round. Thanks, Emily, for running this. We have an exciting wooden racket tournament coming up on July 31st in partnership with the entertainment committee, which created and conceived of it. You can show up in your short white shorts and high socks. And we're, by the way, looking for wooden rackets for loan. So please get in touch if you can loan one. We have a multi-generational tournament the following weekend. So with teams of people from different generations on August 7th. And of course, the fantastic season-ending tournament with all your favorite tennis stars soon after. So in the regular programs we've got going on are Todd's clinics. They start in just 2 days, Monday through Thursday, for 6 weeks in the mornings on the Omnis. Kate Green is going to reprise the curated doubles, which was a huge success from last year, running it Mondays and Fridays at 3:30. So we're all really excited for the season and hope you're going to join us for some or all of that. We, like a couple of mechanical things, we've been working on a drainage issue in one corner of the clay courts for a while. We may have helped, but I don't think we've entirely fixed it. And the fence on the Omnis continues to be a bit of a problem. So we're gonna not address that immediately, but soon. Probably, we're gonna need to address it at some point. But right now we're patching it. Let's see, a few shout outs before I jump off. To Thea and Phil West for making the amazing new benches. They're already appearing on the courts. They're great. To Kate Green for running the curated doubles well into the fall last year with Greg and doing again this year. Todd for the vibrant clinics, helping with the courts, the juniors team for the town. To Bill McLean for being absolutely everywhere with great ideas for tennis and making sure the courts are well maintained. Thank you. To Josh Tyson with help from Will Berry for lots of help on the drainage issue. And of course, to the whole tennis committee for being active, engaged, donating their time, putting on lots of fun programs and events. They are Todd Piker, Kate Green, Greg Choa, Emily Pryor, Bart Jones, and Tori Estringetta. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions for Matt before we move on? I think we had, Bill, we had this idea to help pay for the benches that people could, you want to talk about that?
Sure, I can mention that quickly. So there was a request made to make 8 new benches for the tennis courts so that each team could sort of have their own bench. And Phil West and his daughter took up that mantle. And part of what we hope can pay for them is dedications, either in memoriam or otherwise, that will be sort of communicated to the membership once the benches are in place. The idea is that you would sort of have a plaque for instance, Lori, your grandfather. So we are sort of fine tuning the pricing for those dedications. They're probably going to be around $300 to offset the costs of the very expensive wood that we had to buy, as I'm sure many of you know in this world. But we also think it's a fair price. So hopefully we'll have lots of people who are looking to make a donation for a memorial bench. And that email will be forthcoming once Matt and I and Phil get sort of a little bit more on the same page. Right, Matt? Sound good?
Sounds perfect. Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Bill. Yes. I think that's Sue. I think that's on the books, the bench for John Miller. So if there are no questions for Matt, we will move on to entertainment, which is Bill.
Okay, I'm just gonna, go to my list. So, yeah, we've tried to be a little more aggressive this year with sort of events. We have some, we've already had one, which was the Juneteenth barbecue, which went really, really well. We had excellent attendance, and we coupled that with an academic talk by a local historian, Peter Vermillier. And the response was really positive, which was exciting. Obviously, you know, it could be a little touchy from time to time, something like Juneteenth, and I think that the club did it really, really well, and we should be happy about that. And it was great food. You'll notice that on the clubhouse, there's a list of flyers for the events coming up. I hope to add a few to that, but that is currently the standing list. It corresponds to an email that went out earlier, so people can sort of save the date. I would say that, you know, we're still looking for sort of more ideas. There's a few new members who are bringing to us such interesting concepts, which we hope to invoke, such as Paella Night, and as well as a few music events, which we're sort of still circling. You may have noticed if you came to Juneteenth or the day after that we have 2 new tents that were purchased by the club to help with large crowds, and so that we could have catered events, rain or shine, which was always a big obstacle in the past. Trying to see what else. It's been great working with the tennis committee on sort of their events as well, to sort of give a cohesive look and feel to sort of all the events presented to the membership. Sorry, let me check my list. I'm sure I didn't forget anything. We had a volleyball event on Monday night. That was the only one that didn't sort of go well. So I may be looking for either a different night. If anybody's sort of interested in playing a kind of pickup volleyball game and has a suggestion for a time, let me know. And we're going to see if we can fit that better so that people who want to come can come. People have expressed an interest, but Monday night was not great. I am looking for a couple of things. One is I'm looking for more speakers and educational events. So if you have someone who you think has a great ability to talk about their trade or something interesting, especially if it has to do with being local, I'd really like to hear about it. Peter Del Tredici, obviously, because we know him very well, has already offered to do a walk around that we're sort of currently sort of figuring out exactly what it's going to be, but that'll be sort of later in the summer. But that's sort of the idea. Any readings that might be interesting and pertinent to the club? I think that the Peter Vermillier speech was talk and question and answer session went really well, and I think the Boathouse was actually a pretty good venue for it. We had about 25 or 26 people, I think, maybe 30 at max, and it handled that event well. And the other is that, you know, I would say that the entertainment committee is a little understaffed right now. I'd love to find people who are interested in either sort of co-running certain events, making themselves sort of available. You know, for instance, there's a trivia night every Thursday. We had our first one. It went very well. Hopefully that crowd will grow still. I'd love for somebody to jump in and help out MC that trivia night. So just sort of stuff like that, feel free to reach out.
Bill, it's Emily. Hi. Thanks
Emily.
for all this. Wow, so much work and very much appreciated. Who is on the entertainment committee right now?
Yeah, so it's me and Brittany McAllister, who is a younger member. So far, that's it. You know, one of my failings is I'm not a very sort of communicative person, and I'm bad at outreach. So Lori made me make sure I announced that we need more volunteers.
Great. And the second thing I just wanted to mention was that I think music is a great idea. I think for example, if we could find someone for the potluck, I think that there are a lot of musicians that really struggled last year. And I know of a few, and I think I could maybe try to get some information to you about that, because I think they're all dying to have venues.
That is fantastic. And for music and stuff like that, we're you know, we are paying, right? We are not looking to cheap anybody out. Same with speakers. You know, there's a fee that a standard fee we have. So that would be great. I'd love to hear your suggestions.
Hey, Bill, I don't know if it's still on your slated for your summer agenda, but we've had stakeout night. We've had, before my time, there was pig out, I've heard. And we talked about having veg out, which would be another way to do local stuff, you know, local vegetables, local produce, and served up at the lake, like in maybe potluck form, something like that. Is that still part of your agenda?
Yes, it has not been scheduled currently. We're looking for a date, but the veg out was something that was brought up, I think, in discussion with Susie Ott and also Lori's sister Maggie, both vegetarians. And it's a fantastic idea. We have so much amazing local produce, and I think we just want to find the right tie-in, you know, with those farmers, and then I think it will be a great event. We just need we're trying to figure out the date. Part of sort of the difficulty is making sure that the lake is not over-programmed in a way. I think that there's a little consciousness about, you know, if we really have sort of like a big tented event every weekend, it's going to get monotonous. So, but that is absolutely on the slate. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point.
I wanted to mention about volunteers. These two big tents that we have take 4 to 6 people. I think 6 people are easier and faster when you have 6 people to set up the tents and break them down. That right now we kind of have the same bunch of people doing it, and we don't put them up all the time. We put them up when there's a possibility of rain. And if we could get people to sign up on a list, I would be available, or I might be available. You can call me if you need me. That would be really helpful, because right now it's Josh and Bill and Ronnie Lozana and Phil and 2 other people. Like Skip was doing it, and I think Josh's sons were doing it, and it seems to be the same crew doing it every time so far, 2 times, putting them up, taking them down. I'm sorry, putting them up once and taking them down once. So it would be great to get some volunteers. If you know people who aren't at this meeting, you could spread the word. It would really be great to get those volunteers, and then other people who are interested in decorating with the events or being part of any of these events. So
and another point that I just want to raise that I forgot, my bad, is I do want to sort of give a shout out to Josh Tyson, who really sort of guided us in setting up those tents the first time, and sort of took the bull by the horns and alleviated a lot of our fears of not doing it properly. So thank you, Josh.
I do think you're just going to have to email out, I think, an announcement of when you need help.
Yeah,
and who's available can come, right? Because otherwise we don't know.
Of course, yes, we'll email out, but we'd also just asking for people who we also know might to just put it out there that we're going to need help at some point. Okay, does anybody have any more comments or questions about entertainment, or we can move on? Let's go to membership. Susie?
Hey, am I muted? No, I'm good. Okay. All right. So more bright spots. We have lots of new members, which is so exciting, as you may have seen, lots of little kids as well. So starting out, we will start out with the resignations, and there were some of those as well. Brendan McConnell O'Connell and Elizabeth Buchanan, Simon and Marjorie Hewitt, Jeffrey Buckner and Jennifer Barb, Dwight Lee and Blair Brown, Susan Hatcher, Catherine Tadji, and Dominique Lesueur. All of those folks resigned. Sadly, also, we had some members pass away. Ann Estern, Jackie Sacaccio, Julia Scott, Stephen Senzer, Joy Boyam, and John Miller. And now we do have lots of new members. Let me list them off for you. And just to reiterate what we said earlier, new members, hopefully some of you are here with us today. Please do, when you go to the lake, go up to the lifeguards and introduce yourself, introduce your children if you have them, just so the lifeguards get an idea of who you are, and can then also call your children by name if there's some, they're doing something that might be a little bit dangerous. Okay, so here are our new members. Yay. Gordon Senzer, Joanne and Tom Windas, Melissa Silvetti and Christopher Sampson, Christopher Moore and Molly Fitzsimmons, Joyce and David Kiesman, David and Opal Cavalier, Anna Coleman and Noah Noyes, Michaela and David Clary, Tyler Cheney and Brittany McAllister, Sarah Jeffries and Stuart Osborne, Audrey Strunk and Cristiano Gatto, Robert Becker, Fred Glass and Maureen Katz, Matthew Demmer and Abigail Penzel. And then we also have a couple of applications which are complete and have been approved by my committee, and shout out to my committee. And those are the two that Annie mentioned at the beginning. And depending on if there are some members that decide to resign in the next couple of weeks, those new members will be able, or those on the waiting list, those two applications will then be invited and can join us this summer. So that's it. Thanks again to my committee, and happy summer, everyone. Any questions? Oh, and then of course, there's also the 100,000 gypsy moths that are also new members.
Thank you, Susie. All right.
I have a question. This is Toby. Susie, who's on the membership committee and how often does it meet? And how does it work right now?
Yeah, it changes year to year, who my committee is. And we used to actually meet, that was back when the letters came in on paper. But now what happens is those who are nominating members are expected or hope that they send the letter to Annie or to the Cream Hill Lake Gmail account with the seconding letters attached. So it's one packet that Annie reviews, and then I review, and then I send out to my committee to review. This is all done via email. So obviously all of these letters should come in as email. And this year my committee was Elizabeth England, Ingrid Gould Ellen, Jackie Schiller, Julie Begman, and Benta, was we, I think. Anyway, so then it's the kind of thing that happens generally just in May. That's when Annie usually sends out all of the emails for all of the letters for us to approve. Reading them over, making sure that they adhere to the regulations, the rules for nominating someone. And then I send it all that information back to Annie, who then sends out the letters to the folks to invite them to become members.
Susie,
Thank you.
Still have the requirement that they meet somebody on the membership committee, which used to be a requirement. Obviously, last year you couldn't do that. You don't do
No,
that
we
anymore.
haven't. Yeah, I've been heading up this committee for, I don't know, 6 years or so. We've never had that. I don't think it's in the
I don't know if it's in the bylaws. It was sort of standard operating procedure when I was head of it a long time ago. But
no, we haven't done
right,
that.
because then the new people knew somebody, they'd met someone other than their proposers and letter writers. Anyway.
No, we haven't done that. Nice idea, but they hopefully, like I said, when they come, they introduce themselves to the lifeguards, and it seems like people are getting to know each other. It's lovely to see all those all those little kids there and the parents hanging out, chatting.
Your new face.
So how many members do we have now, Susie?
Annie, over to you.
Over to you, Annie.
Over to you, Annie. The number of new members, we must
So
be.
altogether, I meant altogether, what do we have? I've lost track of our
200.
membership.
We have 200 members right now. We are full.
That's full, okay.
I also
How
think
many,
Her hand
how many
raised.
emeritus members do we have?
maybe the, well,
500, no.
let me count it. I also sent out the membership list to all of you yesterday. You can see how many emeritus members we have. So let me count. I'll get back to you.
Jane had a question or a
I'm
comment.
wondering, maybe we should have a tea party for the new members so that they can be introduced, since we no longer have these live membership.
Yeah, we used to do that. This meeting used to be called the new members tea. But
Yes,
I've noticed as I'm looking here, gosh, I don't know that there's any new members. People they wouldn't come. People wouldn't come to the meeting. So it sort of fell by the wayside.
Were you aware of whether there were new members at the Juneteenth barbecue? I didn't come myself.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Yes, there were.
There were some
But
good.
we could also wear name tags at the July 4th picnic again.
I don't see, maybe because I feel like I'm a little shy, but I don't feel like I want to force people to do something that they don't want to do. But that's just me.
I think it would be nice to have a new member tea, even, maybe it's on a different day, but is, if everybody comes, it's hard to tell who the new members are. They know who they are, but we might not know who they are.
Well, we could, I could, Susie and I could talk about that, give us the new members and then coordinate something on a Sunday morning or new members brunch or tea or something like that. We can do that.
Or you,
just don't make them wear like different colored name tags or something.
what about
Not pictures of themselves and their whole families,
I think
like in a placard.
Ann Kaufman has a comment. Ann?
Well, I was going to say you could give them each a Hawaiian lei or something like, not a flower, but something that you just hang up in the closet and pull out every year for the new people.
That's a cute idea.
or what about a buddy system like at the 4th of July potluck, where a new member, one family would be paired up with our family or Laura, and then we could introduce them to people we knew or something.
That could be one of their nominators.
A nice idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the Hawaiian lei idea. I think that, were you serious, Anne? I thought that was great.
I'm serious. I mean, somebody has to go to Target or somewhere or go online and find these things.
I think we need to make our own daisy.
Paper.
Yeah, we should make them out of real flowers, not
We can make them out of gypsy moths.
gypsy moth.
I'll sew them all together.
Okay, moving on. That's very.
So I'm sorry, I have one more membership question. Mrs. Toby, I learned this year that committee chairs get free memberships, or at least the committee chair of Buildings and Grounds is offered a free membership.
No.
And I also learned that the new employee, Will Berry, was offered some free memberships for his family as part of his compensation. And I was wondering if the membership committee has a list of who gets free memberships each year.
So Wilbury, Toby, Wilbury doesn't have a free membership. He has use of the club while he's working at the club. So he doesn't take up a spot. His family can just come and use the club as part of a nice way to, take care of him, who's doing a lot of work for the club. The other free membership you mentioned was.
Committee members don't, except for
Occasionally is offered to waive their fees for a year while they're doing a job that is considered particularly hard. I believe your membership dues were offered to be waived and you turned it down. I think, it's not a terrible thing, but we can all have a discussion about that. But I would like to discuss that another time because we have a lot to get through, but we have it in the minutes now and we can talk about it. Because we're going to have some meetings on other ways to raise money for the club, not in this meeting. But thank you for raising that, Toby.
Thanks.
Any other questions? No. Okay, so on to nominating. That's
me.
Martha, right.
I'm
giving this report because Eileen Gargan is on vacation. So the members of the nominating committee are Eileen Gargan, who's chair, Dan Horan, Elizabeth England, Phil West, and myself. And we would like to put forward the following slate on the table for 2022, and that's to be voted on at the annual meeting. Lori Bevins, president, Greg Choa, vice president, Annie Kosciuszko, secretary treasurer, myself, Martha Brule, Jennifer Dorson, Tori Jadow, Ronnie Lozana, Casper Leward, and Josh Tyson. Any questions? No? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Martha. Next is Buildings and Grounds, also known, it's been rebranded as the GMR, Groundskeeping, Maintenance and Repair, and that is Bill McLean. Bill, can you also explain to us how we got to that committee? And
yeah, so the building committee has obviously gone through some I guess gyrations over the past year. One of them was it was joined with the sort of what had been the Standing Buildings and Grounds Committee. And then it was unjoined again. And this is the report for that portion, which is basically the committee which does routine maintenance, not capital expenditures necessarily, but sort of the maintenance of the club annually. All right. So a few things we had. Will Berry obviously is, for those who don't know, is on board as, I don't want to say handyman, but basically handyman, to sort of assist with a variety of maintenance stuff that has to take place with the club throughout the year. He worked quite a bit in the spring and is continuing to sort of do his 8 hours a week, which seems to be pretty good and seems to be able to keep up on most things with that allotment. We had a few surprises as we got up and running. One was Jack noticed that the toilets were draining slowly one day a few weeks ago, and call went down. He drained the pipes. He reset the system, started again. It was still draining slowly. He then called Roto-Rooter. Roto-Rooter came. They blew out the pipes, and ultimately what happened was we realized that there was a problem with the septic system. Another shout out to Josh Tyson, who the next day came with an excavator and 3 very hardworking associates and dug out the old pipes, found the problem with the distribution box in the septic system, learned a little bit about our septic system along the way and its placement, and repaired the problem so that everything works again. So it was really sort of a dicey moment there. Josh, do you have anything to sort of add to that discussion?
Nothing too specific, but I did submit a report to Annie and the area health district with some drawings and just a brief summary of what we found. Wasn't exactly what we expected. I don't think that the septic system is underneath the volleyball court as we had always assumed. There wasn't really anything to indicate that to me. And that's what we found. Again, a brief report, and that's all submitted so that should anybody need to reference it down the road, it's on file in several different places.
Great. There was also currently, it's still sort of in the ends of being repaired. There's a leak from the drain from the kitchen sink was leaking into the boathouse. Eric Domeno, a plumber we've used before, repaired that yesterday, and it still has to, the men's bathroom has to be restored a little bit. Sink put back on the wall, and some mold abatement that Jack is going to carry out on that front. So those were sort of 2 plumbing surprises. there's been a fair amount of effort in sort of prepping the building for its partial opening. So, you know, getting the boathouse to be sort of a livable space instead of just a storage space, turning the small sort of two-door entryway of the main clubhouse on the bottom floor into a temporary changing room for the season instead of the tent. And I think that's sort of most of that, and then sort of a variety of sort of signs and restricted area, you know, instructions. Let's see. There's a few projects that are still on hold for the, you know, until the renovation, like the gutters and the siding on the far side of the building. That's sort of on hold until the new building committee sort of starts making some calls. I wanted to mention that, you know, this is sort of in conjunction a little bit with waterfront. There were 16 boat slots available. We put in an extra paddleboard slot on the far side of the boathouse to help accommodate some of the reduced boat space, and sent out a letter a few weeks ago. We still have to sort of send out the follow-up to that to let people know who wanted a boat sort of placed at the club sort of got that slot. I think actually we've been able to accommodate everybody who wanted to put their boat back in for the season. We just have to verify that, send out the list, and then assign the yokes, which will, you know, that'll probably happen this week or next. And then that also sort of prompted a little bit of the discussion of separating that out to sort of boating committee. Ivan, who's got the paddleboard, said he'd be happy to be on it, as did,
on his paddleboard.
Yeah, sorry, it was, but anyway, a couple of people who sort of are avid boaters will help with that, potentially establishing that committee to tackle the stuff moving forward. I think that's it, unless there's questions.
I have a question that refers to what you said earlier about building benches for the tennis courts.
Yes.
And I think the membership is being asked to make donations to pay for those. We're not a nonprofit, and so I don't know why we're asking for donations. Why can that not be part of the budget that we have? Why can't
it could be. I think that there was a, you know, there were several sort of bench discussions that went back and forth about what sort of types to get. We wanted to sort of echo ones that were there, and we felt it was
about the payment.
Yeah, we think it's a sort of nice idea, right? So it's a nice idea to supplement an expense. We always try to supplement expenses when we can. And I think it's a nice thing to have benches, you know, as memorials for this. It's going to be fairly popular. We've already basically accounted for 4 benches. So
it's not mandatory. It's just
no, you don't like have to pay for a bench if you don't want to. I mean,
no, that's clear. That's clear. I just mean,
yeah, so
we're not a nonprofit, so it's a
no, but that, yeah, but right, but I think it's a sort of a positive thing all around.
And if some of them don't get paid for, the club will pay for them. It's not like we won't make them.
Sure, yeah,
and pay for them. It's just an idea.
Yep. Well, it's happening, right? It's an idea that's happening.
Great.
But,
thank
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody want to help on the buildings and grounds now called the GMR? Anybody want to offer their services or their help? Because again, it's become a very small committee.
If you tell us what kind of help you need, maybe I can help.
It's all right. We at this point, the GMR, I think, is we're sort of we're not in a bad place. I think Will is a great sort of contributor. I think that we are, you know, not more than a couple of weeks away from meeting any request that's sort of put in by anybody. I also wanted to mention that he did shore up the sort of triangle dock on the far side of the boathouse to help facilitate access to those extra boat slips. That was a good job. He put on his waders, got into the water, and did a nice job. So.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
I'd just like to add thank you to Josh Tyson for doing the driveway and taking out some large rocks from the parking lot this year.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Thanks, Toby.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank Roxana for
Can I also just raise the question to put in the minutes that our driveway is shared with two other entities, the Yelping Hill Association and a private house. And I think it would be good if we solicited those two entities for some portion of the maintenance costs of the driveway.
We talked about that last year. Did nobody pursue it? We found the people that should be asked at Yelping Hill and somebody.
I think Roxana, now that we know how much it costs, now we can write the letter and say, this is what we paid for to repair a driveway that you use. And please consider giving us some money for it.
I think it would be, I'd like to, I guess, request, I think it would be worth putting in writing exactly what the arrangement is and what their responsibilities are and what our responsibilities are.
Is there an easement agreement that runs between the three entities? Generally, that includes a repair and maintenance provision.
There is an easement agreement, but I don't believe that there's any sort of homeowners association agreement regarding cost sharing or anything like that. It would, I think, would predate anything like that. But there's no reason we can't at least ask the homeowner to share snow plowing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that should be standard operating procedure. I mean, that was crazy for us to pay for that. Sorry.
I would also offer that, yes, obviously we should sort of share an appropriate split of expenses. I think it's also important to realize that the overwhelming majority of use of that driveway is by CHLA. So it's not a three-way split, for instance. So
yeah, it might not be, but in the summer it's an overwhelming use. I'm sure the rest of the year there's less, or maybe it's less for them too. I don't know, but no, I wasn't suggesting getting rapacious. I'm just saying that it's a very appropriate discussion to have and resolve.
Right. Yep. In my line of work, we do a lot of common driveway work, and unless there's some sort of pretty solid arrangement between the homeowners, it's always really sticky. It just is. Borderline nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's why I asked the first question, because if there's an agreement, you're all set.
There is not.
Yeah.
So Toby, you said you have the people to contact for that?
Yeah, one of our members, actually, Graham Wyatt, is the Yelping Hill Road Committee.
Okay, we'll contact him. Thank you. We'll figure it out.
The other is Mariah Scoble.
Okay, perfect.
And I guess I would just ask with Mariah Scoble, I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but to confirm whether or not her house is rented out through Airbnb. There should be some kind of piece of the easement or arrangement agreement. If there are other people coming in to use her house that are not her, we need to account for that somehow.
Okay, we'll look into it.
That is what she's doing, because I tried to get that house for family members that was rented out. So, but anyway, she's easy to find. West Cornwall Post Office.
All right. All good with the Buildings and Grounds Committee, also known as the GMR. So the Renovation Committee, Jim Terrell, who's the new chair of the Renovation Committee, is not here. Emily, can you speak about what's going on, even though you've only had one meeting?
Sure. Yeah, I can just update people as far as I know. So we have this new committee. It is specific to the renovation of the building. Jim, as Lori mentioned, is the chair. We also have John Van Doren, Eric Teets, Tyler Cheney, and then continuing from the work all the work that happened over the last year is Josh Tyson and Toby Cornejo. They will be on our committee as well, which is really critical. So we have a sort of a seamless information flow from what has already happened, because a lot has already happened. We did have our first meeting. We're planning to meet a lot. We would like to move pretty quickly in terms of trying to come up with a plan. And we are hoping, actually, we have a very optimistic goal that we'll be able to present something to the membership, even if it's not a final plan, by the end of the season. Let's see, what else can I tell you? All the meetings will be recorded. There's a Zoom option for people who feel like attending. At the end of every meeting, there will be public comment. And there are going to be minutes. So all of that will be available to people if they are interested. But I do think that we want to keep this very, like a small group that's really going to work hard and fairly quickly and try to find some solutions for our building. And if Toby or Josh have anything to add, I would be happy to hear whatever else you want to add.
I would just want to reiterate that the meetings are open, and in person or by Zoom, any club member is welcome to attend and participate if they would like to be kept apprised of what's going on directly.
Thank you, Josh. Toby?
I won't add anything here, but the meetings that we did have this past year were every month at the beginning of the month, and they were recorded as well, and are on the club account. I don't know if they can be put somewhere if members want to access them, Annie.
We can put them, we're going to load all the meetings and recordings up on the website. We're working on it. It's still slow going, but we will do that.
Okay. And I just also want to add, in light of this week's events in Miami, I just want to add that I'm grateful that we've kept most of our building closed this week, given what we know about the foundation. I think that was a wise move on the part of the executive committee.
Thank you. And you as well.
I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead, Ezra.
Do we have an architect on that committee?
Yes, we have two.
We have two.
Who are the two? I'm sorry.
Toby and Eric.
Toby, obviously, but Eric.
Eric Teets.
Great, thank you.
Who's also a new member, and it's nice to have new members brought into these committees. Okay.
I'll just give a shout out to several other architects in the membership who advised the previous building committee: Graham Wyatt, Alan Metcalf, Rick Wolfowitz, who's on this call, Ginger Kindred, and some builders, Will Calhoun, also spent time talking to me and giving advice about capital projects and facilities and maintenance and group planning. And that advice is really valuable, so I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Jane
would
Garney
add
has her
Ian
hand
Olwell
raised.
to that list.
Hi.
Ian gave us some time as well, and we appreciate that.
Jane, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered what happened to the last committee? Can you explain why there's a new committee and what happened to the member? Did they all resign? Is there a difference in opinion as how to move forward? Can you give us a little background on that? Or Emily, could you?
One of the main things I think, in my view, was the size of the committee and also trying to address current basic maintenance needs at the same time as trying to tackle a very large, complicated project. And I think that it got a little bogged down. It got a little bogged down because there was and then there was the reopening for the season. There was so much to do. And I think that group was kind of looking at too many things. That's my opinion. And I think that having a smaller, more efficient team, I think will be able to move it forward quicker. But I don't know if someone else wants to chime in. There was, of course, other things.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about Jane's. I wanted to reiterate what Jane has just asked. I had not been aware that there was going to be a change of architect, that there was going to be a new committee. And I understand what Emily is saying, but, and I hear her reasons for that. But there has been a letter circulating written by Roxana Robinson, which I thought established a lot of questions that I have had, specifically about the safety of this building, the underpinnings of the building. So I wondered why the architect was changed, and if that letter that detailing all these questions that was written by Roxana could be circulated to the membership. I'm very concerned about the safety of this building, and I have been for many years. But especially in view of what happened in Florida, which has nothing to do with the safety of our building, really. But I thought the initial architect had done a great job, and I wondered why that replacement was made. So I just want to enter that into the record, that my concern is severe.
The initial architect has not been removed. The architect, the builder, Mason Lord, who is the owner of Hudson Valley Preservation, is still on board, as far as we know. And the architect that he hired, Jill Neubauer, architects firm, I'm not sure how her title goes, is also still part of the process. It's just the renovation committee that has shifted. It was a very large committee. It was all volunteers, and which was great at the beginning, and they did a huge amount of work exploring things and getting the job started and putting out the membership survey, which I think everybody here filled out, and getting other information like the borings and the property survey and a detailed report on the building. They did a lot of stuff that's great, but it seemed that it was a little large and was focusing on a lot of different things that could be many different committees. And so we're trying to focus it more, narrow the focus down on really fixing the building, repairing the building, and bringing the building up to its former glory that I think we all love. I think it's clear from the membership survey that everybody wants this building, and they just want this building to be fixed and safe and beautiful again. That seems to be what we have found. I know that Emily and Josh and Jim have gone, or they were going to go over the member survey and really cull together what people said. I've read most of it, not every single thing. There's a lot in there. It was circulated to the membership so everybody can see what people said without seeing who said it. You got that email? We can send it again. We'll send it again, and we'll put it. Yeah, we'll send it again, and you can take a look for yourself. But I think it's pretty overwhelming that everybody wants this building to be repaired and be nicer and shinier and prettier.
Is it necessary to get the building code people to look at this before we begin expending money on renovations? I don't know what cart goes before which horse is what I'm trying to say.
Well, Josh, do you want to, or Emily, do you want to speak to that?
Can I say something before we move on? The letter was written not just by me, but also by Ann Coffin and Betty Spence.
Yes.
All of us were on that committee, and we were dismissed. We were not, this was not a question of being, all of us feeling that there were too many people in the committee. The committee was founded by people who were interested in this project. And then Annie Kosciuszko, in the middle of another meeting, asked Toby if she would also include buildings and grounds as part of the mission. That's what made it made the mission too large for one committee.
So
But
Roxana,
many members of the committee, could I finish?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
we were
yes, but
dismissed.
you've already
Hold on,
made-
please,
Wait.
one person at a time. And Roxana, I need to
You
speak.
can answer me, but let me, yeah, that's fine. But Annie, as to Mason Lord, he doesn't know whether he's still being part of this project. He hasn't been told. And it was Annie who wrote a memo saying that the relationship with Mason Lord was untenable. I don't know what that means and what the EC has decided, but it's no longer a question of the club in close partnership with Mason Lord. That's no longer clear to them. And the members on our committee were dismissed after a year and a quarter of very diligent and responsible work. And those of you who've seen the letter know what happened. but I'd request that you attend to Carol's request that the letter be circulated. Okay, Lori.
I would like to say, Bill, can you wait, please? I would not like to circulate that letter, Roxana, unless I circulate it with the other side, because I believe there are a lot of inaccuracies in that letter. And if I send it to the whole membership, everybody's going to think that that's the only side of the story, and it's not. I think one of the very wise things that Jim said in the first New Buildings Committee was that if you ask 5 people, you're going to get 5 different versions of the story. I think we need to move forward and fix this building. Yes, the old committee was dissolved, except for Toby and Josh to continue on with the work. I really didn't want to air our dirty laundry. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's necessary to fix this building. And I do not think your letter should be circulated. And I don't think you should have sent it to the people you've already sent it to. Would anybody else like to say anything? Bill?
That letter is wildly inaccurate. It is biased. It is full of wholesale, complete inaccuracies. The kind of inaccuracies, honestly, that Roxana was reprimanded for putting into her minutes as a member of the committee. So just so there's sort of a very clear picture here, that is a very misleading letter. I'm sorry, Carol, that you sort of took it to heart. It is almost entirely false. And I stepped in, I apologized earlier, because even Roxana's assertion that Annie was the one who recommended that Buildings and Grounds be joined with the renovation committee is itself false. So there's almost no truth to the false narrative that letter represents. And it's just, it honestly, and you can obviously tell that I'm sort of frustrated. It is outrageous that that letter is being passed around and detracting from the work that needs to be done and the goodwill that is trying to be generated by the EC and very kindly addressing the issues that the building committee had, of which Roxana is very, very well versed. So she has been already reprimanded several times for inaccurately representing what went on in those meetings. Her minutes were retracted, and this is simply a reiteration of those false statements.
Okay, everybody.
I would like to speak. May I speak, Lori?
Yes, Betty, please.
Thank you. Bill, you may disagree with some of the things in the letter. I would have to disagree with you saying that the letter is wildly inaccurate. Roxana and Ann and I were on that committee, and we worked very hard on that committee, and we worked hard on putting the letter together and putting everything together in logical fashion so that people could see it. And so I do not accept your saying it's wildly inaccurate. I can certainly accept that you disagree.
Thank you, Betty. So please, Bill. There are recordings of those meetings. We could post them, everybody could watch them themselves. I was really trying to keep the membership from becoming divisive and split. We all want to fix this building. We all pretty much want the same thing. I'm sorry that the old committee was dissolved, but the EC really felt that it wasn't going in the right direction, not the direction of fixing the building. It was kind of a little bit all over the place. And I really don't want to go into details because I don't think it's fair, because I think that committee did work very, very hard and they did a lot of good work. But I think we needed a different committee to move forward and get the work done. So I'm sorry, Betty. I'm sorry, Roxana. I'm sorry, Ann. I'm sorry, Toby. I'm sorry to everybody whose feelings were hurt, but we need to move forward and fix this building. And I think that letter is divisive, and I don't think it should be circulated among the membership. And if you insist on it, then I will insist on writing another letter that counters everything you've said. And I will go back and listen to all the meetings, including the 4-hour meeting, and make sure that I'm correct in what I've said. And yes, please.
Say something. I think the easiest thing to have done would be to just separate out Buildings and Grounds from.
We did that. It was done. We did that. They were separated out.
Do anything. It was separated out before we even had another meeting. I mean, just to really put that on the table. And
okay, I hear that, Ann, but also a meeting was supposed to happen immediately after that happened, and it was held off for weeks and weeks. Even though there's a directive given by the executive committee, that was ignored. There was no email that said back to the EC, what do you mean? What do you want us to do? I mean, I can get into it. I'm really trying not to get into it. And I'm really disappointed that this was brought up, because I really think that what we're trying to do is fix this building and move forward and move out of that section of our history.
May I say something?
Please, Ezra.
I'm head of what's called the Finance Committee, which is eventually going to finance or help finance anyway, or decide how to finance what comes out of the renovation committee. And I was sort of auditing what was the building committee. So I'm involved in this, and I think it's very important because there are very deeply felt hurts in a sense on both sides. And I think it is time now that the people who expressed those have done so, and that it is sort of pointless to continue this in a more public way. The real question here is this building going to be built in the way that we all want it to be built, with a firm foundation and restored to a place that we like, or not? And that's something that the membership will have to agree on. But at no point that I know of has anyone suggested that the building, in a sense, be compromised and just sort of patched up as opposed to fixed. And I believe that that is the determination of Jim Carroll. It's the determination of others. And I think we should go with that. I think anyone who has a concern about the quality of the building going forward should have those concerns addressed, but not in a public forum. It is going to be a quality building.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, before we moved on, I just put it in the chat here. I mean, it outwardly, what people see maybe, you know, look one way, but in reality, like we've had on all, I really believe on all of the committees, you know, they all have a charge, and they all are always doing, you know, what they believe their charge is. Our charge as the executive committee is always to try to make decisions and appointments to committees that we think are in the best interest of not just those on the committees, not just those on these calls, but the entire membership as a whole, the new members, and thinking forward in time. And you know, I really hope everyone you know, believes and understands that this is what we feel our executive committee has done and is doing as we've made these decisions. It is not to try to make things more challenging or more difficult. It really is to do what we think are in the best interest of the membership and the club over the long term. So maybe with that, and to follow on Ezra's comment, I don't think this needs to be a huge public discussion and debate. There are committees and outlets for these discussions that we've set up, and I hope that they get used constructively and productively going forward.
Thank you, Dennis.
Nobody said.
Are there any other questions?
I'll tell you later what he said. Oops.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah. So if we can move on, as Emily said, the current building committee with Jim Terrell as chair and Toby and Josh still on it, those meetings are open to the public for public comment at the end, so people can follow along. And I think he's also willing to take any suggestions or things you've noticed or things you'd like to say. He seems very accessible when he gets back on July 1st. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to move on to old business, which is the emeritus committee that has come up with some ideas. Is that okay with everyone? Thank you.
Whew. Okay. So I actually wrote this out so that hopefully everybody will understand it. The Emeritus Committee also worked very hard on coming up with a solution to the problem of so many emeritus members and how the club feels, membership feels about it. So we Just to go over it, the bylaws as they stand now, both household members of the association must attain the age of 70 years and have been paying members for 20 years in order to become emeritus members. And thereafter, they pay no dues, no fees, no assessments. They give up their right to vote and to hold office. That's the way it stands now. The following is what we are going to present to amend this situation. I'm sorry, to amend the bylaws. All present members are grandfathered or grandmothered if you prefer, meaning that anyone who is presently a member will not be affected by these changes and become emeritus members in accordance with the present rules. That's everybody who is now a member. For people becoming members in 2022 and thereafter, the emeritus age will be 75 years old. We propose a new class of members called senior membership. Both members who are 70 years on or before 2022 and have been paying membership dues for 20 years can choose to become a senior member. Senior members retain all the rights and privileges of a regular member and would be responsible for paying all dues, fees, and assessments. Senior members will no longer be counted in the regular membership count of the association, which is 200 families. So for seniors, if you want to be a senior member until you're 75, you're welcome to be a senior member. You're still a paying member. The only thing that changes is the name of what you are. The present Emeritus Committee members who wish to become senior members and pay dues, fees, and assessments commencing with their change to senior membership shall have all the privileges of a regular membership, but they will not be counted in the regular membership for purposes of keeping the membership at 200 people. Current emeritus members may remain as emeritus members with no change to their status or payments, or they can choose to become senior members if they wish to do that. That's what we have proposed, and if there are any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them for you. I can also send this out if you like, so that you'll have it in front of you if you don't really understand it now. Any questions?
I'd like to add something to that, which is that one of the problems that we've had is that we have emeritus members currently who are using the club who are indeed past the age of 70 and who are not paying dues, as is their, I mean, the bylaws say they can, but we would really have, I think there should be some moral suasion here, that if you use the club often, and you've gone emeritus, you should unemeritize yourselves and actually pay dues. Those of us that use the club on a regular basis, I think, have an obligation to pay dues, and it's encouraged. If you don't use the club very often, that's one thing. But if you are there with some frequency, I think there's a moral sense that you should be paying something. And the Finance Committee, which will have some recommendations on that too later on, but we're not going to change the bylaws. The bylaws are the ones that Jane is dealing with, and she was the head of the Emeritus Committee, and that's what they're recommending, and I think that's a good idea. But I do want to add the idea of moral suasion.
I think I appreciate that. That's been your position all along, and I'm sure that you can morally twist as many arms as you like. People are going to do what they want, Ezra, but they're welcome to become non-emeritus. They're welcome to pay dues. They're welcome to give anything they want to the membership.
May I add to Ezra? I agree with him completely, but in addition to that, there are some emeritus members who are not paying dues and invite their family to come without paying. And I think it's outrageous.
Well, I think their family members pay guest fees.
I doubt it.
Well, I think you're wrong, but we could find out for sure. It's all in the books. You know, we can certainly think about this and revisit this idea of emeritus paying something like a guest fee when they come or something like that. But I think some people have been members for 40 years or more, and maybe it's okay that they don't pay when they come. They still pay for their tennis lessons, whatever. I'm out of this discussion. I just want to say that there are other sides to the coin. And that I think there are some emeritus members who actually donate money because they aren't paying dues. They do feel a moral persuasion, and they have sent in money anyway, and have said that they would send in money and support the renovation by adding money to it when is necessary.
My only point is there are emeritus members who are not paying dues, which is fine. That's the way it goes, and it should be, I think. But if they don't want to pay dues, but they also are inviting family members without paying for them. And it absolutely is happening, and it shouldn't happen.
So I would like to say,
can we vote on the proposal that Jane made? I think, or do we need to do that, or what?
No, that vote will be in this is the preliminary meeting. We don't vote on bylaw changes until the general meeting.
And we can have another meeting about it.
About that.
Lori,
Susie.
I just wanted to, I think it should be clarified. It never would have occurred to me that we didn't have to pay guest fees for our children and our grandchildren. Actually, we're still paying membership dues, but I think it should just be very clear. Everybody, members and emeritus pay guest fees for their families. I mean, it never would have occurred to me, and I don't think that's ever been a policy. But all of this stuff has been a little unclear at times. So let's just send out a note to everybody. The season's just opened, everybody, and in explaining the new sign-in system for guests, everybody is expected to pay emeritus or not for their guests. And I like I like that 5-year, what are we called? The senior discount? No, we don't get a discount.
No discount, senior membership. You have to be a member for 20 years.
How about junior seniors?
Very clever, Jim. I like it.
The questions? Any other? Jane Barney?
I wanted clarification. A senior member, is that only for people between 70 and 75, or can one go on being a senior member beyond that age? Sure. I was a little unclear.
One does not ever have to become emeritus if one does not want to. One can remain a senior member forever and pay dues and have all of the privileges until that person is no longer on this earth.
Okay, and can anybody who's now a member do this, or is this going to apply to anybody who becomes a member next year?
No, anybody who becomes a member next year can, I'm not clear on your question, Jane, but let me.
Okay, rephrase it if you like. I'm just asking if current members can become senior members, or they just move right into the emeritus fold, and it's only the new members you're talking about who will be joining.
I can answer. Anybody who is 70 years old now and has been a member of the club, of the association for 20 years, can become a senior member if these bylaw changes are in effect, that are voted by the membership.
Oh, thank you. That makes it clear. Yeah, okay. It was just.
I believe you're asking if you can continue to be a paying member past 70. Is that correct?
No. I was asking what as I had heard Jane present it, I was confused because I wasn't sure if you could only have the option of being a senior member between, I had two questions really. Could you have the option of only being a senior member between the ages of 70 and 75? And then because this new policy, she said, would apply to members coming in from here on in, whether those of us who are now members or emeritus members could become senior members. And I think she answered both those questions. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome, Jane.
Are there any other questions?
I just want to reiterate that it would be great to, if you could send this around so that we can read it before we vote on it, and then maybe send comments over emails if we have any.
Absolutely. Annie, could
Thank you,
do
Jane.
that? I sent it to you. Okay,
This is
thank you.
Toby. I have a question. Does the Emeritus Committee have a sense of how
one
many adult children of Emeritus members are effectively using the club, as members and should be invited to become members? Or how many even adult grandchildren of Emeritus members are using the club? It just, in doing the work of the Buildings and Grounds Committee this past year, it became really clear that there are a huge number of people that use the club routinely, and maybe feel a little bit funny about coming to use the club, like maybe they should be members. And at the same time, over and over, we're hearing that the committees generally need more volunteers and more involvement. And it seems like there's a huge number of people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s who have some kind of murky membership arrangement that's not really spelled out. And it seems either within the Emeritus Committee or within the membership committee to really take a hard look at all the people that set foot on the property and how they're connected to the institution would be really beneficial, both in terms of volunteerism and probably from a financial standpoint. And I just wonder if that comes up as part of the Emeritus discussions or membership discussions.
Well, it certainly has. My understanding, and I can check this with Annie and Lori, is that there are a large number of Emeritus members. Most of those people do not use the association. Most of them do not use the facilities. I think something like 15 families on that group use the facilities regularly, and the others don't. So out of the 100+ people, or however many there are, they're not using the club. Does that answer part of your question? Toby, is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, like in reviewing some of the admissions data from the past summer, there are some Emeritus members that have 200 guests.
Who have had 200 guests?
Yes, which is more than I use the club, and I'm a member. And
they do get billed for that, Toby.
I know they do, but in terms of wear and tear on the facility, involvement in the governance, input into discussions about the future of the club, it seems that there's a few pieces where there's kind of a great weight on usage that's not captured in how we're managing the place. And there were members that had 500 guests, and it just seems like we're missing something by not thinking even more broadly than just the senior membership.
A member that has 500 guests?
I'm sorry?
A member that has 500 guests?
Yes, there's a member that had 500 guests last summer, according to your spreadsheet.
I mean, guests came 500 times or 500 different entries, children and grownups?
I don't know, it was totaled at 500. And just if we're talking about who's there and who's a member and how much they're paying, I think that needs to be part of the equation.
Annie, do you have someone who had 500 guests?
We'll figure it out.
That must add up to a lot of guest fees for that 500.
I think if you're looking
that's a
at
good
the number
windfall.
that would have been in there, that would have been the amount that they were going to get charged for it, not the number of guests.
Well, and I guess related, like whatever, I guess we have to audit this stuff, but the guest fees need to be set in such a way to offset any, added wear and tear on the club, and can be plowed into maintenance and other things, hopefully.
Dennis, that's completely right. It should be.
I'm looking at the guest rules, and there is the executive committee can set the guest rules. And that's what's in the bylaws. And it's very interesting. There is nothing in here about children of members when they are determined to be, they must sign in as guests. There is, so the executive committee really needs to attend to that. I mean, I sign my children in, and I thought that was part of the rules here, but it's not. So yes, that is something we definitely need to attend to. And we also have not raised the guest fees for ever. So that, that is definitely something that we should look at and probably look at really soon.
I remember when we did raise the guest fees. That's how long ago it was.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's been $5 for an adult and $2 for a child for as long as I can remember.
Clearly, what all of this is also underscoring is the need to continue the check-in system that you put in place during COVID, because people may have there's degrees of purity in people's hearts. And if they're distracted and they're trying to get in there, if they can just sort of waltz in and waltz out, oh, gee, what was they dismiss it. And in fair, I probably would too. So I have no objection to simply stopping in front of a pleasant adolescent and giving my name and having them check what my status is and see how many people I have with me. And I also think $5 for a day at Cream Hill Lake, that should be at least $5.50, $6. But whatever you want to make it. But I think that's clearly in order, and I can't imagine anyone's going to get too upset about that. And the people who will are probably emeritus, and so they won't care. So I would go for that. That's it.
Thank you, Spencer. Carol, you have another? Carol, you're muted.
I apologize for being muted. I also just put in a chat asking if you could reiterate for senior or emeriti that their children can have summer memberships and what those fees would be. That would be, I think, very helpful in terms of bringing in more revenue above the $5 each time our kids sign in. And our kids do sign in, and we're very religious about signing in guests and children. But I know that there is a policy somewhere in the rules about summer memberships for children, adult children.
Yes,
So,
there is. If they're living with you.
Yes.
There is a extended family membership that costs 1/4 of the dues, and they get a vote, actually.
Really?
So, yes.
Well, Annie, could
It's
you?
called an extended family membership. All of those are in the bylaws and they are posted on the website.
I understand, but seniors forget stuff a lot.
I know.
I would really like it if
Not
we-
only seniors.
Yes,
really?
the executive committee was discussing this before the meeting, and I think we're definitely going to be sending out an email detailing the guest rules, but I also think that we need to retool some of them to make sure we capture these children of emeritus or regular members that are showing up, because it's clear that it's not in the guest rules that they need to sign in, and they do need to be signed in every time. Some people are wonderful about it, but a lot of people aren't.
That's us, but still, I'd love a renewal, a reminder to go out this year to the membership, especially to the emeriti.
Okay.
Also, Toby said that there was a member with 500 guests, and that's not the case. So I just would like to say that that's how much they were charged for their guests. That was not the number of guests that they had. And it was a family that is religious about signing in their guests.
And we also talked a little bit about maybe approaching older children of members or emeritus members who do come to the club a lot about becoming members. But we also want to be careful not to, let's say, take up a whole membership slot with maybe a single person in their 50s or 60s, when we could have a younger family with children who really would appreciate the club. So we're all balancing both sides of all of these making money in membership things. I mean, if the membership wants to expand the membership to 300 membership slots, those questions are easily solved. But I think most people don't want to expand the membership again. But we are thinking about those things. I think the Finance Committee is also going to help us think about other ways to raise money, and if we need to change the dues scale, we are working on it. Are there, Jane Bevins, yes.
We could always decide that anybody who wants to become a member can become a member and not have a limit at all. And then we can raise lots of money. It's not such a funny idea. There are a lot of people who might want to become members if we weren't limiting people. That's all. So that's my report. I will have it sent out, and please, if you have comments, Annie, would you put me on the CC so that I know what people are asking so that we can address those things? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, is there any new business?
Wow.
Roxana, yes. You're muted.
So this is just a coda. I understand that everyone who's involved in the club works very hard, and I commend everyone on this Zoom call who's paying attention, everyone on the EC who's put in so much work, everyone on every committee. And it's one reason that the club is such a place that everyone loves. I think my main intention when writing that letter, which I wrote with Anne and Betty, was to draw attention to the kind of governance structure that we have, which is very loose and informal. And I think that issue is something that we should address. And it would make it easier for everyone. Everyone would know who they are responsible to, what the chain of command is, and how we address things going forward. And I think that was a big problem with this last project and the one before. We don't have a clear sense of who's responsible for something, how people are chosen, how committees are chosen. And I think it would be great if we did have a governance committee, and Coffin knows a lot about that. And I think it's something that should be considered as a way to make things clearer and more streamlined, and to make the structure just more usable. But thank you, everyone on this Zoom call, everyone on every committee who puts in time and energy to a place that we all love.
Thank you, Roxana. We're happy to talk to Anne about the possibility of a governance committee. I do think everybody should actually read the bylaws, not just the parts you need to know, and you would have a lot of answers to your questions.
Will we have the committees posted? Can we do that this year?
Yes, we're working on that also.
Outside on that bulletin board, so everybody knows who to go to if they have a question about something. And
Yes,
who's on the committees.
I just made sure that the executive committee is correctly outlined on the website, and you have all of our phone numbers and emails there. So if you need to reach out to us, you can. And we are going to put the rest of the committees and their members on, and we will be on top of keeping that up to date.
But post them at the lake too, because people get busy and they don't always think to look at the website.
I want to see the list.
Who wants to see the list? Somebody said, I want to see the list. Who was that?
It was Reva.
Oh, well, go on to the website.
This is Toby again. Does the nominating committee only put forth a slate for the executive committee, or do they ever discuss the standing committees and sort of who's on them and the cycle of populating those? Because I think it would be useful if they did, if they're not already, and really publicizing that as a requirement of membership, that you be considered and take the call when the nominating committee calls you and says, we think you'd be great for the entertainment committee, but people know that there's some obligation to sit in some of these roles on a rotating
limit, so they know how long they're obligated for.
We were also discussing, much like the Israeli army, making it mandatory to serve on a committee for everybody in the membership. We were discussing that idea. Nobody gets just hanging out. So we have
some memberships that way too.
What's that, Anne?
Some people will resign. You'll get more.
Oh, that's right. We'll have more space. So, any more questions or comments? Sounds like, yes.
This is a separate question. What is the policy about the boats on the beach, and can that be written down and posted somewhere?
Sure. Good idea. I do think it's hard, especially for new members and even some old members, that a lot of the information is just kind of by osmosis, by hanging around long enough or asking somebody. And we have been trying to make more signs, but we're also we're sensitive to the fact that we don't want to oversign the place. I did have some children, especially Ali Lesch's daughter, Willa, has been making a lot of signs for the lake, which makes them kind of more fun and delightful and doesn't feel so So thank you, Willow and Eliza Tyson also worked on some of those signs. But I think you're right, having more signs, or at least having a list somewhere of what's on, the bylaws and maybe the other rules, like on a flip book or some nice paper that Bill found that doesn't melt in the rain, on a clipboard outside of the clubhouse, since we can't get inside, where people can flip through and look at things without having to get online.
I
So
think doing a frequently asked questions document would be great. And because we do have a lot of new members, and there are a lot of weird things that aren't in the rules and aren't in the bylaws that are, like Lori said, are just general knowledge that kind of verbally gets passed on, and it should be written down.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing. I know that there's a new sign up that says one way when you come in from the driveway into the parking lot. I don't know that everybody noticed that, but it's really dangerous not to go in just one direction. So for those of you who are listening and those of you who have friends who are coming and who don't listen to that, please remind them that it's a safety thing. We have a lot of little children running around now.
Can I follow up on that a little bit? Just a driveway issue. If people would remind guests and everybody just to drive slowly on the driveway for safety reasons, but it also just breaks the driveway down more quickly if people are going faster. It will get potholes and ruts more quickly the faster people go. So it's your money, you've spent it, take good care of it.
Thank you, Josh.
Drive slowly.
Great. Yes, thank you, Josh. I mean, I try to drive on the more raised parts of the driveway to try to push them down a little more, just kind of even it out, not go in the same tracks all the time. Okay. Any more comments or questions? We made it, we almost made it to 2 hours, even though we wanted to do 1, but we got a lot of stuff done. We said a lot of things that I think people needed to say. We will have other meetings before the last meeting of the year. And as Emily mentioned, people are invited to visit and listen to the renovation committee meetings if they want, and there will be public comment at the end. And then those minutes, I think, will also be put somewhere for people to read.
Will those dates of those meetings be posted so we know?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, ha ha ha. You can come, but you don't know when. I think they're going to be weekly, and I think they're going to be on Tuesdays, but the next one is Thursday, July 1st. Emily, are you still here? Did you have to leave? Anyway, yes, we will post it or send out an email. I know there are a lot of emails coming out and people have email fatigue probably, but try to read the emails, even if they're long, because I think, we try to be mindful about what we're putting in them, and it's good to have that information. We will send out the member survey again so people can look at it. Please don't yell at the lifeguards. If you have an issue, come to us. That's their number one fear, is getting yelled at by the grownups. Please be nice to them. They're just teenagers. Maybe they're 20. Any other comments?
Yeah, don't yell at the seniors.
Oh,
Can the emails be posted on the website and collected there as well?
Emails be posted. Sorry, which emails?
The emails that come from Annie, can they be archived on the website?
Yes, I will try to post, when I send out an email, I will try to post it on in the news section of the website. I just haven't gotten to the website this week, but yes, I would like to do simultaneous email and posting.
We are working on our communication and having things up on a website. Annie's found a new website service that will make things easier for the members to get into. We're going to work on it this summer. We just have plans to make things easier for people to find information. So just take some time, especially with people with full-time jobs, which I think is most people here. So,
and people with children.
And people with children, young children and children on the way.
Great.
I have one more question. Could the EC send out to members just a summary of what Will Berry's role is this summer and what Jack's role is?
Sure.
Why do you ask,
so that
Toby?
people know what Jack, how to talk to Jack and what they can ask him, and who the person is that's living on the club?
Sure. I don't think there's really sort
Go
of a
in
limit.
it can go in our frequently asked questions. Who's that guy and what's he doing here? Okay.
I know a lot of people have a problem with Jack, but Jack has really been great, even if he wears a bathrobe on the steps sometimes that people don't like. We can get him some nice Hawaiian shirts so he always looks good or something. But he's really done a lot to help this club out.
Jack has been, I've been working a lot with Jack sort of directly this year. And the first thing that everybody should know is we would be literally in a septic field if it wasn't for Jack this year, because he spotted that problem very early and was able to sort of head it off at the pass. It would have been a lot worse. He also went under and flushed out all the wastewater. I mean, he's doing a bang up job this year.
And every year, I think that, you know, he works very hard and he kind of works under the radar so people don't know what he's doing, but he's really keeping things together, including keeping people off the property, making sure things are going okay. He does everything we ask him to do. He makes sure things are safe. You know, the state of the building is not because of Jack. The state of let's say the disrepair of the building is not because of Jack. He's been repairing it religiously for the 23 years he's been there. And I think a lot of people have a distaste for Jack. I'm not sure why, but I think that's unfounded. I hope that when Jack retires or something terrible, unfortunately, whatever, that we find someone just as good as Jack who can do just as good a job. So
I would like to second that, Lori. Very nice words. I always say hello to Jack. He is always unfailingly polite and receptive to a nice hello. And he has done so many things that nobody but you all on the executive committee know about. So real applause for Jack over all these years. And I wish more people would say hello to him, greet him, and thank him for the work he has done.
he's a very intelligent guy. He
Yes,
really knows a
indeed.
lot of stuff, you know, have a conversation with him.
Yes.
Will Berry is basically our handyman, like Bill said. He is paid hourly. We give him about 8 hours a week. And he does a lot of things to maintain the club that we have to pay for to maintain the club. It's not just, you know, Jack's duty to do everything in, you know, for the honor of living in that apartment. So
And in terms of sort of, I mean, if somebody sort of has a maintenance issue, we should, Annie, maybe we should sort of create another email that's just sort of, you know, maintenance or, you know, maintenance at CHLA or something like that. You know, because Jack, you know, so I assign Will what he's sort of doing. And, you know, requests should sort of come through that avenue, right? So we shouldn't be sort of assigning Will stuff outside of that dynamic.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all right, so adjourned. Thank you all for coming to this meeting. Thank you for your comments. And come talk to us if you have any other issues or things you want to talk about, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.